I never expected the words that would unravel my life to be spoken so calmly. "The freeloading ends today," said Ethan. He didn't shout. He didn't stomp his foot or throw his hands in frustration. He just said it as if he were announcing a meeting at work, like it was reasonable, logical, and already decided. I froze. We were standing in our apartment in downtown Seattle, a place I had poured 6 years of my heart into. The smell of roasted garlic and thyme from dinner still lingered in the kitchen. I was drying a plate, pretending not to hear, hoping this was a joke. "I just got promoted," Ethan added casually, as if that explained everything. I slowly set the plate on the rack, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I recognized that tone. It was the tone of a man who had rehearsed in his head until it sounded fair. "You heard me," he continued. "We need to separate our money. I'm not going to support someone who isn't pulling their weight." I turned to face him, my throat tight. 6 years of marriage, shared bills, shared dreams, shared grief, all reduced to a single word: freeloading. I looked at him, at his crisp new suit, polished shoes, and the confidence that seemed to come with every dollar he earned. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "I mean, we need financial independence," Ethan said. "My money is mine. Yours is yours. We split expenses. That's fair." "Fair?" I nodded once. "Okay," I said. He blinked, surprised. He had prepared himself for tears, for an argument, for guilt, maybe even rage, but not agreement. "Okay," he said again. "Yes? Separate accounts. 50-50. That's what you want, right?" I asked. Ethan smiled. Relief spread across his face. "Exactly." I turned back to the sink. What he didn't realize was that I had already started counting. Every dollar I had contributed, every bill I had covered, every invisible thing I had done to keep our life running while he climbed the ladder at work. 3 weeks from now, he would regret every word he just said. But in this moment, he believed he had won, and I let him. I am not the woman he thinks I am. To him, I am just a teacher with a steady paycheck, unremarkable compared to his corporate ambition. That is the story he tells himself, and the story his mother, Margaret, loves to repeat. But what he doesn't see is everything else. I teach at a private school during the day, but evenings and weekends belong to my own business, tutoring the children of wealthy families, polishing young minds for elite colleges. Some clients pay more for an hour of my time than Ethan spends on a dinner meeting. That money went quietly into our joint account. No applause, no recognition. I run the house too: bills, groceries, schedules, doctor appointments, repairs. I make sure the fridge is full, the laundry is done, his suits are pressed, and social events remembered. He sees the result, not the work. Dinner on the table, lights on, life running smoothly, it all seems effortless to him. But I am the one who makes it happen. While Ethan built his career, I built the system that allowed him to succeed. I absorbed stress so he wouldn't have to. I spent money so he wouldn't have to think about it. And yet, when people stop seeing the system, they start thinking it's free. That's how he came to call me a freeloader. That's how I decided it was time to let him see the truth. Ethan didn't come up with separating finances on his own. Margaret had been planting the idea for months, whispering gentle concerns. "You work so hard," she'd say. "You shouldn't have to support another adult." And he listened. But he was standing on the very person who had been holding him up all along. And I am ready to let him find out what happens when that support is gone. Most people think they know the person they live with. I thought Ethan knew me. I was wrong. By day, I am Emily Carter, a teacher at one of Seattle's most prestigious private schools. The kids think I'm just another adult guiding them through algebra or history. They don't know I spend nights transforming futures, tutoring, mentoring, preparing teenagers for college, polishing their essays, coaching them through interviews. Families pay thousands for 1 hour of my time. I manage it all quietly, because that's what I do. By night, by weekend, by every spare minute, I am the unseen architect of our lives. Our apartment, our schedules, the comfort Ethan takes for granted, none of it happens by accident. I pay bills, track subscriptions, schedule doctor appointments, manage repairs, and make sure everything runs smoothly. I shop, cook, clean, organize, and plan months ahead. I am the invisible hand holding our world together while Ethan climbs his corporate ladder. And yet, in his eyes, I am just the wife. I started counting shortly after he announced the split in our finances. Every dinner I paid for beyond my half. Every utility bill I quietly handled. Every small emergency, every hidden cost that made our life functional, tracked and stored in my mind like a ledger no one would ever see. 3 weeks from now, he would see every detail, but for now, he was blissfully ignorant. He thought he had won. I am not bitter, I am calculating. I am patient. I know how to let people believe they are in control, even as the truth quietly grows around them. Ethan's confidence is his weakness. He thinks his promotion gives him power, that money separates him from me, that success can be measured only in dollars. He doesn't realize how much of that success is built on what I've quietly carried. Ethan doesn't see the tutoring, the extra hours I put in for families who trust me with their children's futures. He doesn't see the spreadsheet I maintain for our household, tracking every expense, every contribution, every invisible favor. He doesn't see the nights I stay up balancing our lives while he sleeps, dreaming of a corner office. I am aware of every detail he ignores. I know the exact cost of groceries, household supplies, and the gifts he casually buys for friends or family. I know how many hours I spend cooking, cleaning, and organizing. I know how much my labor is worth. And soon, he will know too. Margaret, Ethan's mother, loves to feed him stories about what a hard-working man he is and how he deserves independence. You've earned every dollar, she whispers, careful to sound loving. You shouldn't have to support someone else. And he listens. He never questions it. He believes he's standing up for himself. He doesn't know he's been standing on me this whole time. I've learned long ago that people rarely see the system. They see results. And when they don't see the work, they assume it's effortless. They assume it's free. That's the trap Ethan has fallen into. That's the illusion he lives in. And I am ready to shatter it. I have been waiting for this moment, not to punish him, but to reveal the truth. To show him that life isn't just numbers in a bank account or promotions on a resume. It's sweat, it's organization, it's care, and it's the unseen contributions that make everything possible. I am the architect of our shared life. I am the foundation. And for the first time, Ethan is about to confront the reality that everything he took for granted has a cost, and that cost has a name. He doesn't know it yet, but I've started preparing. Spreadsheets, calculations, silent records of everything I've done for 6 years. Every dollar, every hour, every sacrifice is noted. And when he finally sees it, he will understand, not just how wrong he was to call me a freeloader, but how much power I've quietly wielded all along. For now, I watch. I wait. I am Emily Carter, and this is the moment where patience meets revelation. Ethan never realized how much influence his mother, Margaret Carter, had over him. She had been planting ideas in his mind for months, always gentle, always disguised as concern, always subtle enough that he thought the thoughts were his own. "You work so hard," she'd say during their Sunday lunches. "You deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You shouldn't have to support anyone else." Her voice was calm, soothing, never accusatory, but it carried weight. Weight that Ethan absorbed without question. And he listened. Oh, how he listened. Every promotion, every raise, every step forward in his career became proof of his independence. He started looking at our marriage differently, through the lens Margaret painted for him, that a wife should orbit her husband, not stand beside him. That independence meant separating our finances, even if it meant disregarding the invisible labor that kept our life running. I watched all of it unfold like a chessboard, each move calculated, each piece in position. I knew Ethan thought he was making a bold, brave decision by demanding separate accounts. He believed he was standing up for himself. He didn't know he was standing on the very person who had supported him for 6 years. I started quietly, almost imperceptibly, preparing for the day he would step into that belief. I tracked every expense, every extra contribution, every unnoticed effort I'd made to keep our home and life functional. The tutoring payments, the bills I covered beyond my share, the repairs I arranged, the schedules I managed, they all had names, dates, and numbers. Soon, Ethan would see what he had ignored for years. I am Emily Carter, and I have been waiting for this moment. Waiting for him to think he had control, while in truth, I held all the cards. Ethan's sense of fairness, skewed by Margaret's whispers, was dangerous. He thought fairness meant splitting money, dividing bills 50-50ths. But fairness, in reality, is much more complicated than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's understanding labor, effort, patience, and sacrifice. It's seeing the unseen. And he had never seen. That's what he would learn. Margaret's influence wasn't the only factor. Ethan also had a fragile sense of self. He needed validation, proof that he was right, that he was capable of standing alone. And yet, he had never truly been alone. Every promotion, every successful project, every business decision he celebrated was built on the foundation I had quietly maintained. Every email neatly filed, every bill paid, every meal cooked, every errand run, it was my labor that allowed him to focus on climbing the ladder. He believed he deserved independence. I believed it was time he understood the cost of taking it for granted. I had already begun recording every detail of our shared life, spreadsheets for bills, receipts for every household purchase, logs for tutoring income, notes on the countless hours I spent maintaining our home. I was building the proof he would need to see, and the moment would come when he could no longer deny it. I am patient, but I am precise. I have been invisible for 6 years, and yet I hold all the power he thinks he possesses. He doesn't know it yet, but I am ready. Every step he takes toward independence is another step into the truth I have been preparing for. When he finally realizes how much I've done, how much I've given, how much I've carried, it won't just surprise him, it will shift everything he believes about us, about fairness, about what a marriage truly requires. And in that moment, I will be visible. I will be seen. Ethan doesn't suspect it. He smiles, plans his spreadsheets, counts his dollars, and believes he is victorious. Meanwhile, I am silently setting the stage for the reckoning. I am Emily Carter, the unseen architect, and soon, the invisible will become undeniable. 2 days after Ethan's announcement, we walked side by side into Harrison Bank in downtown Seattle. The building gleamed with polished marble floors, soft lighting, and a quiet sense of order that made money feel safe. A receptionist, Olivia, greeted us with a professional smile, the kind of calm warmth that only comes from seeing dozens of couples arrive with similar stories. So, you'd like to separate your joint account into two individual accounts? Olivia asked. Yes, Ethan said immediately, like he had rehearsed the line 1,000 times. He turned to me with a small grin, expecting me to hesitate, to protest, to ask for exceptions, but I didn't. I nodded, calm and collected. Olivia typed for a moment, then looked up. How would you like to divide the current balance? Ethan glanced at me, expecting generosity or hesitation. Half, I said evenly. He froze. 50, I repeated. That's what fair means. There was a brief silence. Ethan stared at the screen, as if numbers could magically rearrange themselves to his advantage. Fine, he muttered. Papers were printed, forms signed. Our shared account was about to become history. Olivia explained how the money would be transferred, how new cards would arrive, and how future deposits would go into our separate accounts. Ethan listened carefully, nodding like he understood. Then she asked about household expenses. We split them 50/50, Ethan replied without hesitation. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Then we should track them, I said. Track them? Ethan asked, confusion flickering across his face. A shared spreadsheet, I explained. Every grocery run, every household purchase, every bill. We record and settle at the end of the month. Ethan hesitated. This wasn't the kind of independence he had imagined. He imagined freedom from responsibility, a neat division of money without the work that came with it. But he nodded, reluctantly. I created the spreadsheet right there in the bank lobby, date, item, cost, who paid. I shared it with him. A fresh start, I said. He smiled, but something in his eyes had shifted. For the first time, he was beginning to sense that this wasn't victory, it was a test. And he had no idea how badly he was going to fail it. I am Emily Carter, and this is the moment I've been waiting for. Not to punish him, but to make visible the life I've been quietly running for 6 years. The changes started immediately after we left the bank. I stopped doing the things I had always done automatically. I didn't announce it. I didn't argue. I simply let the system I had built reveal its absence. That night, I cooked dinner only for myself and left a note on the counter, pasta in the pot if you want some. Ethan stared at the kitchen, confused. He was used to meals appearing ready and warm. He served himself. The sauce was cold. He reheated it, muttering under his breath. The next morning, coffee for him was a simple cup of instant. He frowned at the taste. Groceries were another shock. I bought only what I needed, vegetables, simple meals, healthy portions. Ethan went shopping on his own and returned with random frozen items that didn't belong together. By the end of the week, he had spent more on groceries than I had all month. The spreadsheet filled rapidly, paper towels, soap, cleaning supplies, snacks, bottled drinks. Every invisible task I'd carried for years now became his responsibility. And with each line, each number, he began to see the scale of what he had taken for granted. I watched quietly, letting him stumble, learn, and struggle. I am patient. I am precise. I am Emily Carter, and for the first time, the system he thought ran itself was showing its true cost. Ethan doesn't yet know the storm I have prepared, but he will. And when he does, he will finally see what it truly means to share a life. Ethan had always believed that life ran itself. Dinner appeared, laundry was done, bills were paid, and the apartment sparkled without effort. That illusion shattered the moment we separated our finances. I watched him struggle with small, seemingly simple tasks. The first time he tried to cook, he burned the eggs into the pan, the smell filling the apartment. He frowned at the counter, muttering, "I don't know how she did all this." I didn't answer. I only observed. I am Emily Carter, and for 6 years, I've carried a weight he never noticed. Now, he would begin to feel it himself. Laundry was another revelation. He tossed all the clothes into a single load. Whites turned grey. Socks shrank. Shirts lost their crispness. He stared at the washing machine like it had betrayed him. "I didn't know you had to separate them," he said, genuinely perplexed. I didn't smile. I didn't scold. I only let him learn. Responsibility had a weight he had never carried, and it was heavier than he imagined. Groceries were worse. I shopped for simple, fresh meals for myself. Ethan went out on his own, returning with frozen pizzas, random cans, and bread that had already started to mold. By the end of the week, the bills he accumulated surpassed what I had spent in an entire month. Every snack, paper towel, and bottle of drink was now his responsibility, tracked meticulously on our shared spreadsheet. Even managing the house became a lesson. He tried to vacuum, but broke the machine. He attempted to organize the kitchen, but placed items haphazardly. For the first time, he realized that life required constant attention, planning, and care. And he realized, too late, how much I had done to maintain it all. I am Emily Carter, and patience is my weapon. I do not need to argue. I do not need to scold. The truth speaks for itself, quietly, consistently, through the chaos I no longer prevent. The first few days were the hardest for him. He complained, yes, but slowly his pride began to fade into awareness. He began to understand that the comfort he had taken for granted was the result of unseen labor, my labor. He began asking questions, hesitantly, about things I had handled automatically for years. When do the bills need to be paid, or which groceries last longest? He started observing the spreadsheet I had created, noticing the meticulous records I had kept for every dollar spent and every hour of work contributed to our home. For the first time, Ethan felt the weight of responsibility. He realized that independence was not just a matter of signing papers at the bank. Independence meant doing what I had done, day after day, without complaint, without recognition. And slowly, subtly, he began to change. He started to plan his grocery trips more carefully. He tried to cook simple meals, reheated correctly this time, and even attempted to organize a few items in the kitchen. His confidence was shaken, but a new respect was growing, an awareness of how much I had done quietly, unseen. I watched all of it, quietly satisfied. I am Emily Carter, and finally, the scales are beginning to tip. Ethan has felt a fraction of the weight I carried, and it is humbling him. The illusion of effortless life has shattered. The truth is no longer invisible. By the end of the first week, he admitted, quietly, without me asking, "I don't know how you did all of this." I didn't respond with praise. That wasn't the lesson. The lesson was already clear. A life doesn't maintain itself. Comfort isn't free. And the person who makes it possible deserves to be seen, valued, and respected. Ethan was learning. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably. And I am ready to watch him take the next step. Because understanding the work is only the beginning point. 3 weeks after the bank visit, Ethan reminded me that his sister, Claire, was coming for dinner. She and her husband would drive in from the suburbs on Sunday afternoon. They always expected a proper meal at 5, perfectly timed, with all the trimmings. "You know how Claire likes things, Emily. Dinner needs to be ready on time," Ethan said casually, as if he were reminding me of my job. I didn't look up from my laptop. "I am not cooking," I said calmly. Ethan's jaw dropped. "What do you mean, you're not cooking?" Your guests, your responsibility. This is ridiculous, he replied, tone edging toward irritation. No, I said evenly. Now we have separate finances. I cook for myself. You handle your own dinner for your sister. He stared at me like I had lost my mind. For years, I had been the one who prepared everything: holidays, birthdays, weekend dinners, special events. And now, with nothing but calm in my voice, I refused. That evening, Ethan went to the store for the first time in years. Hours passed. When he returned, he looked exhausted, bewildered, and completely unprepared. The bags were filled with random frozen foods, cold cuts, a loaf of bread, and even a pie with a dented corner. How did you do this every week? He asked, bewildered. I shrugged. I had no choice, I replied. Sunday at 5 arrived. Claire walked in, wrinkling her nose immediately. Where is the roast? She asked. I don't smell anything cooking. We are doing something simple, Ethan said. He glanced at me, helpless, as if I might intervene. I did not. Claire looked at the table and froze. Plastic containers. Store-bought items. No hot meal. What is this? She demanded. I was in the living room, reading. Ethan swallowed hard. Emily and I have separate finances now, he muttered. She's not cooking anymore. Claire's gaze shifted to me. What happened? Ethan explained everything: the promotion, the comment about freeloading, the 50/50th split of the bank account. When he finished, Claire laughed, not kindly. That is insane, she said. You and your mother told the woman, who has run your entire life, that she was a burden. Ethan stayed silent. You deserve better, Claire whispered to me, leaning down and pressing a kiss on my cheek. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The moment spoke for itself. For the first time, Ethan saw the scale of what he had taken for granted. He saw the chaos he had ignored for years, the invisible labor I had carried while he climbed the corporate ladder. He stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the mismatched containers, the random groceries, the failed meal attempts, and the mess he could not even organize. For the first time, he understood isolation, not just his own, but the way he had made me invisible. After Claire left, I brought a folder to the table. 6 years of numbers, receipts, spreadsheets, and records. I placed it between us. Everything is in here, I said simply. Ethan looked at it, hesitant, almost afraid. I opened it for him. My tutoring income, nearly $400,000. Housing expenses, rent, utilities, internet, $48,000 paid beyond my half. Groceries, household supplies, gifts, birthdays, holidays, over $30,000. Your golf membership too, I added silently. He flipped through the pages, stunned. I thought those things just happened, he whispered. They happened because I paid for them, I replied. Finally, the last section, 15 hours a week cooking and cleaning, 10 hours managing schedules and events. Even at a minimum wage rate, nearly $200,000 more. Ethan went silent. I didn't know, he said softly. You didn't look, I said evenly. He rubbed his face. What do you want from me? I want to be seen, I said. For the first time, Ethan understood that the woman he had called a freeloader had been carrying his life, and that weight, finally, was visible. After Claire left, the apartment felt quieter than it ever had. Ethan stood in the middle of the kitchen, staring at the folder I had left on the table. 6 years of spreadsheets, receipts, and records stared back at him. Every dollar I had paid beyond my half, every hour spent running the household, every hidden effort, it was all there. I didn't know, he muttered, almost ashamed. You didn't look, I said softly. For the first time, Ethan truly saw me. Not just as a wife, not just as a teacher, not just as someone who quietly kept the world running, but as a partner who had carried our life for 6 years. That night, his phone rang. He put it on speaker. It was his father, Richard. I heard everything, Richard said. Claire told me. Do you remember who planned every birthday, every holiday, every family visit? Silence. It was Emily, Richard continued. She made this family work. You lived comfortably because your wife paid with her time and her money. And you called that freeloading. Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't mean to hurt her, he said quietly. Intent doesn't erase damage, Richard replied. You took without seeing. That is worse. If you want to keep this marriage, you need to learn to value what you have before it's gone. The call ended. Ethan sat on the couch, staring at the dark screen. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was ashamed. The next weeks were a test, not of my patience, but of his willingness to learn. Ethan tried to do the things I had always done. He washed clothes, though he ruined some, and cooked meals, burning a few. He vacuumed and even tried organizing the apartment. Slowly, painfully, he began to understand the weight of responsibility. I watched quietly, stepping back, letting him struggle and grow. I am Emily Carter, and I no longer need to carry him. He had to learn that life is not effortless. Comfort is not free. By the end of 6 months, the apartment was not perfect, but Ethan had changed. He made grocery lists, learned which vegetables lasted longer, cooked simple meals that gradually improved, and cleaned without being asked. He no longer assumed my labor was automatic. He respected it, not as an idea, but as something he could finally feel. Margaret visited one Sunday afternoon, her usual confidence softened. She sat across from me and folded her hands. I was wrong, she said. I judged you without knowing anything. I waited. I told Ethan things I shouldn't have, Margaret continued. I made him think you were a burden. You did? I asked. I am sorry, she said softly. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. I nodded once. Thank you for saying that. Ethan stood in the kitchen, making coffee the right way. He glanced at me, silently acknowledging the change. We hadn't gone back to a joint account yet. Respect came first, finances second. We had rebuilt something stronger. I got offered another promotion, Ethan said one morning. I haven't said yes yet, he added. I wanted to talk to you first. I don't want success if it costs us again. That was new. That was growth. I was never against your ambition, I told him. I was against being invisible. He nodded. We can hire help. Adjust schedules. Share the load. That's partnership, he said. Later, he asked about a joint account. Only if respect stays, I said. It will, he replied. Some stories end with someone walking away. Ours ended with two people finally seeing each other. For the first time in his life, Ethan understood that a marriage isn't just love, it's labor, patience, and mutual respect. I am Emily Carter, and for the first time, I am seen.